And then you compare that to Trump going to Chick-fil-A and getting mobbed by young black women who scream, "I'm going to tell my mama I'm famous." What does that tell you about the state of the race? Harlem's chanting 4 more years to Trump. What's November going to look like? 4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years!
Just like his visit to a Chick-fil-A restaurant last week, this event was completely fake and staged.
So he is a tried and true, dyed-in-the-wool racist. Like, in the core of his being, he's a racist.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
And the thing is, I guarantee, much like the comments from Jimmy Kimmel, these remarks from John Legend will undoubtedly elicit some feeble truth social meltdown from the former president. Because the thing is with Trump, he'll weather comments from the media on how it is unbecoming of a former president to be on trial for paying hush money to an adult film star. Yeah, he'll call it fake news, what have you, but when a notable celebrity dares utter his name with this regard, the knives come out.
As was expected, Trump and Biden won their presidential primaries in Pennsylvania last night. It's a key battleground state. This has to be worrying for Trump. Nikki Haley, who dropped out a month ago, got more than 155,000 votes, all from Republican voters. Just to put that into perspective, Trump lost the state to Biden by 81,000 votes, and yet still Tootie Roosevelt took a victory lap today, posted a poll, claimed he crushed Biden in Pennsylvania. Look at this graph. Somehow, 1 point is the difference between Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Hart there. Also, Trump got about 200,000 fewer votes than Biden did in Pennsylvania last night.
Let's just say that his entire cabinet, including his vice president, everybody in his cabinet, would be more than happy to work with him again in the next term. I cannot say that about the other candidate running, because nobody in his cabinet from 2016 wants to be involved with him.
Last week was a tough week for the Republican frontrunner. He was forced to sit in a cold courtroom. I mean, couldn't have been that cold considering he was nodding off relentlessly. But as a result, it unleashed a firestorm across the internet.
The guy needs exercise. He's usually golfing. And so you're going to put a man who's almost 80 sitting in a room like this on his butt for all that time? It's not healthy. He needs sunlight and he needs activity. He needs to be walking around. He needs action. It's really cruel and unusual punishment to make a man do that.
Are we talking about Donald Trump or an old English sheepdog?
But take a look at what really got under his jumpsuit. Comments made by late night host Jimmy Kimmel. Still, yeah, he's up in arms about it.
Now, we have a transcript of what our former president said, and I'll just go through it. Thank you, Guillermo.
Welcome.
Here we go. Gettysburg. What an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg. What an unbelievable. I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country, Gettysburg. Wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to look and to watch. And the statement of Robert E. Lee, who's no longer in favor. Did you ever notice that? No longer in favor? Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill.
So understanding the possible virality on the table, MSNBC's Jen Psaki welcomed EGOT winner John Legend to discuss the upcoming election and who he will vote for in November. Now, I know it doesn't take a prophet to guess who John Legend aligns with here, but listen to his reasons for having a less than positive point of view regarding Donald Trump.
One of the things that you hear from Trump's supporters is that he signed the First Step Act in 2018. He's a partner in this effort. What do you say to people who say, "Oh no, he would be an ally. Look what he did in 2018."
He's not been an ally. I mean, I think the First Step Act was fine. It was a very kind of small reform. And to be honest, most of the reform we need is on the local and state level, because most incarceration is local and state, and most of the laws that end up being criminally enforced are local and state laws. That being said, at the same time, you know, he's claiming credit for those small things. He's also saying, you know, if people are stealing something, they should get shot in the middle of the store. When we protested the killing of George Floyd, he was advocating for the military to shoot us in the streets. he's made it clear throughout his life that he believes black people are inferior. Like he believes that to his core, in his bones. He wouldn't let us live in his buildings back in the day. But also, when you hear some of the stray comments he makes, he clearly believes in a genetic hierarchy of humanity and is racially determined. So he is a tried and true, like, dyed-in-the-wool racist. Like, in the core of his being, he's a racist. So I don't want to hear what he has to say about what he's done for black people. He's done very little for us. And he is, at his core, truly a racist. And you even hear what he says about immigration and which countries he wants people to come in from. They all are very white.
That is true. That's something pretty universal about them. So I knew you were active on the campaign trail in 2020. You have a lot on your plate. Are you going to be out there campaigning for Joe Biden this fall?
Yeah, we'll get out there probably later in the year as it gets close to people making decisions about when it's time to vote. I think the choice is very clear. There's a lot been said about age and all these other things. Both of them are old. But one of them is a really decent man who's done a lot to improve lives in this country, and that's Joe Biden. That's who I'm going to be voting for, and I'll be out there supporting him.
Before the MAGA contingent rush to minimize the opinion of a decorated celebrity as null and void while booking Kid Rock for the next Trump rally, John Legend's points are not surface level here. In fact, they're historically backed. Trump has at every turn throughout his career both exploited and then demonized the black community, from calling for the execution of the now exonerated 5, taking out a full-page article calling for the return of the death penalty.
Donald Trump has been railing about how unfairly the justice system is supposedly treating him, when in reality that treatment is actually pretty cushy compared to how people of color have been treated by the justice system for decades. At today's arraignment, Trump was not in handcuffs or leg shackles. He didn't have a mugshot taken. He didn't even have to sit in a holding cell. That is nowhere near the worst of what the criminal justice system has to offer. A prime example of what inhumane treatment does look like is a case Donald Trump is quite familiar with, involving the now exonerated Central Park 5, who were wrongfully convicted of the rape of a white jogger more than 30 years ago. You will remember Trump took out a full-page ad in 4 major New York City newspapers, calling for the state to adopt the death penalty and use it on the teens, something he has never apologized for.
Mr. President, will you apologize to the Central Park 5? They've been exonerated.
You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
To his most recent remarks, claiming that, well, the reason he appeals to the black community more so these days is because he finds himself under criminal investigation. And I'll just take a step back and remind you of how that was received.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against.
Can you get more insulting?
I respect Stephen A. and the platform that he's built, but I respectfully disagree with him here. First off, let's talk about the simple statement that black people can relate to former President Donald Trump based on discrimination by the judicial system. He's not being discriminated against. Nope. What Donald Trump did was make bad decisions, and because of those bad decisions, he's now been investigated, he's now been accused, alleged, and then now prosecuted. The one thing that black people can't relate to is having these run-ins with the law and being the president of the United States of America. We couldn't be the president of the 4-H club if we had this many run-ins with the law. We couldn't be the president of our own HOA. And so I think that's one thing that we need to get out and be very clear on. Also, when you agree with this, you're allowing him to break us down to the lowest common denominator. So you're saying all of these black people who now seem to support you only support you because they connect with you on your run-ins with the law, or only support with you because they connect with you on sneakers. So why can't we connect on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Why can't we connect on better medical care? Why can't we connect on focusing on the mortality rate of Black mothers? Why can't we connect on better schooling in the minority communities? So you mean to tell me you think so low of us that we can only connect with you because you've been indicted? We can only connect with you because you made ugly gold tennis shoes? And I think that's so insulting to even allege that that could be true. And let's really be clear. Nothing about Donald Trump's existence is Black. Donald Trump can't speak to the Black existence. He can't speak to the historical prejudice and discrimination that Black people have faced. Donald Trump has never had to get that talk from his mom. This is the way you deal with authority. This is the way you have to be outside the house. Donald Trump's parents never had to worry about will he or will he not make it home based on the color of his skin. See, the only discrimination we understand, the only run-ins with the criminal justice system that we get is that sometimes you are prosecuted, sometimes you are pulled over, sometimes you are searched based on being Black. That's not something we could control. That's not something we were in charge of. That's who we are. Donald Trump has been investigated and indicted and on trial for who he is for making bad decisions. And let's be very clear about one more thing. Donald Trump hasn't been Black. He will never be Black. He doesn't understand what it's like to walk in the Black man's shoes. And if he ever did, he'd realize that those shoes are too big and way too uncomfortable for him to wear for a day. And so I think as the support seems to grow for him in certain Black communities, we have to be smart about why that support is growing. And we can't attribute with our acknowledgments or with our agreements that the lowest common denominator of us is that we all relate and have an affinity for those who break the law, because that's an untruth.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.